Hey, it's Rick with Rock Bottom Outreach. It is Real Talk Monday. Well, Valentine's Day is fast approaching. Today is the 9th. Valentine's Day is on the 14th. So I want to talk about a little different kind of love today. And you've heard me say this before. We've got to learn to love, not judge. Let me say that again. Love, not judge. But, over the weekend, me and some of the Rock Bottom guys were at a local church. It was a great event for men. But one thing, I know right when I walk in, a lot of times we get trapped into that feeling that we're the only ones with imperfections and problems. It's just kind of a perfect type setting. And again, that's not true. Everybody struggles with something. But, one thing I realized, back in 2008 when I hit rock bottom going through recovery, my character defects were exposed in a major way. And, I realized I had a lot of work to do to the point that I wondered if anything ever was good about Rick Smith, previously. And I'm no saint now, don't get me wrong. But, we talk about in recovery keeping our side of the street clean, which we know what the Bible talks about is that we... to love one another, not to judge. I mean, that's where the whole principle comes from. But I think sometimes we're quick to judge, and when we're looking at someone else and how they're walking out their walk, we're more apt to trip and stumble ourselves. And here's an example. Heard a conversation went something like this, and I was blown away, but it's all too often. But listen to a couple of ladies that were speaking, and one of the ladies said to another lady, she said, hey, I don't mean to gossip, but I mean, if it's true, it's not gossip, but, I heard Betty over there was catting around with Daryl and his brother Daryl and his other brother Daryl. And, that's a shame because, everyone's going to find out and God really knows. And she just, boy, she really, really needs a whole lot of prayer. I mean, I couldn't imagine, doing something like that. And I know God can't be happy with her. I mean, that's horrible what she's done. And anyway, and the lady obviously was tuned into what she had to say. And to kind of close the conversation, the lady said, hey, I got to get out of here. My boss thinks I'm at the doctor's office and I don't want to get caught, being away from lunch. And I got to be honest, I was blown away. Here's this individual. She's talking about all these things that this lady's doing, but in the same breath, she's gossiping, she's judging this lady, saying God's not going to be happy, and the last thing out of her mouth was that she lied to her boss and said she was going to the doctor's office. Do you see where I'm going with this? To say, man, we got to handle our business. Man, again, when the Bible says we all sin and fall short of the glory of God, we got to be careful when we're throwing stones at someone else. We have no room to do that. And when we come across a situation like that, the challenge is to love that individual, whether we agree with the sin or not. Again, we're called to love, not judge, and that's my challenge this week. Can you go a week without talking about someone? Can you go without getting caught up in gossip? When it starts, can you excuse yourself from it? Maybe there's someone at work you do not particularly like their lifestyle. Can you go and love them as Christ would? Because that's what I'm talking about. Basically when they brought the lady, to the Lord, and he kind of drew a line in the sand and said, hey man, he without sin cast the first stone. They all dropped it and walked off. That's what I'm talking about today. When people come to me all the time and say, hey man, you won't believe what I've done, I really don't care what you've done. I really don't. And I'm not being rude. I love you just like you are because I know what I've done and the things I still struggle with. That's it, man. I'm challenging you this week. You got to understand, a lot of times when we talk about someone and gossips, that defines more about you than them. Let me leave you with that. That defines more about you than them when you're gossiping and talking about someone. That, my friends, is the challenge for the week. Got to love, not judge. This is Rick with Rock Bottom Outreach. Bam! Have a great Monday.